and everything's off for tea.
Well, a very good afternoon, 7th of April, 4 o'clock, and it is lovely to, if you're watching, please send a comment. Lovely if you are joining us today. Now, I've decided that for future Cups of Tea with Mr. G, I'm not going to do as many in the week because Boris has said, yes, it is very important that we actually get out there and bring entertainment back. So I better get out and promote myself as an impressionist. So I will still be doing the Cups of Tea with Mr. G, but not as many during the course of the week. And hopefully I'll get to work with a very, very dear friend of mine at sea again. And this gentleman, what can I say about him? Very dear friend, but also he is an international Welsh bass baritone. Worked with him many, many times. Not only is he a fantastic act, but also he's a voiceover. He's an actor. And just have a listen to this voice.
There are more good things in life, Scrooge, than you can possibly imagine.
Yes, I'm sure there are. Can I have some more, please?
Ebenezer Scrooge, the sins of man are huge. A never-ending symphony of villainy and infamy, duplicity, deceit, and subterfuge. And no one's worse than Ebenezer Scrooge. Oh, man's a handy candidate for hell. I must admit, life sometimes has a brighter side as well.
And here he is, the man himself.
Am I there?
Anthony Stuart Lloyd. Shwmai.
Well, Shwmai, Prynhawn da. And it's amser te efo Mr. G. Oh, it's lovely to be here with you. Can you hear me okay? I normally, I'm a bit of a Jonah with these things and it all goes a bit wrong sometimes.
No, listen, we just pray for the internet gods to be with us.
Down and
I'm going to be talking about that clip in a minute, Tony, but it's lovely to see you, lovely to hear your voice. And
can I just interrupt? You don't mind if I have a little...
look at you. Look at you.
We've come prepared, darlings. That's going to catering college before into music college, and even a cup of tea there. Look,
it's going to be like Acorn Antiques. I bought you a nice cup of tea, Miss Babs.
All right, you know.
Listen, Tony. Yakida. I just want to start by asking you. I'll talk more about that clip in a minute, but I just want to ask you the question: why are the Welsh such great singers?
Well, I would probably say that we're no better than anybody else. That's like a line from Oklahoma with Aunt Ella. I don't say I'm no better than anybody else, but I'll be damned if I ain't just as good. Welsh people, well, I suppose we're exposed to the chapel singing, big chapel tradition in Wales. There's the male voice choirs tradition, which had a social side to it as well. And ladies' choirs, mixed choirs, oratorios. We have the Eisteddfod, which is a big cultural festival. There's the Royal National Eisteddfod, which travels around every summer, a bit like a cultural circus, and it'll go north, south, east, and west of Wales. And I competed and have performed, been booked as a guest entertainer with the Eisteddfod. Also, Llangollen in North Wales, Llangollen International Eisteddfod. And that's invites people from all over the world, all over the globe to perform. So you've got that. So it's going to give a lot of Welsh people an opportunity to perform, even in school Eisteddfod and the Urdd Eisteddfod, which is a youth movement. So mix that with opportunities with the language itself. Even if you don't speak Welsh, I think we have a lot of open vowels. Not that you always sing in other languages with open vowels, but it's kind of clarity. And I think that's why Welsh people are very good orators, actors. Richard Burton, Anthony Hopkins. You think of Dylan Thomas, who you do a very good impersonation, by the way, with your voiceovers. That it's clarity. So ministers in the chapel pulpit, Reverend Eli Jenkins in Under Milk Wood, that it's all teachers in the days when even now, you have to be clear with your enunciation. So I think it's that mix. And so it throws a lot of singers there. And even with social clubs, with performers there singing more kind of pop and rock and stuff and ballads. You've just got that mix of things. And I think I'm not saying there's more Welsh singers than anybody on the planet, but there's quite a few prominent ones that you can think of with people like Tom Jones, Shirley Bassey, excellent diction. And what's more, they're still going. What's Tom Jones now? 360 degrees? He's still plodding on.
Can I do my Tom Jones impression? I only know one word for Tom Jones. Ready?
Oh, go on then. Ready? Oh, here we go.
Falsetto.
Falsetto. Well, I did reach the blinds of The Voice on the second series on BBC. And he said to me something like, vibrato. So it's falsetto and vibrato. So these are all singing terms. Falsetto is kind of, for those that don't know, high-pitched, like as if you're a kid or a lady's voice. Woo, very, very high. Bit of Bee Gees, if you like. Yeah. So that's my take on Welsh being good singers, or having a bit of a head start in a different way.
Question, Tony. Right.
Yeah.
Go back to when you were a kid at school. Your school, did they say you have to learn Welsh, or did you have the choice between learning Welsh and learning English?
I didn't have a choice. It's the first answer. Initially, I went to an English nursery, then a Welsh-speaking nursery, then a Welsh-speaking primary school, and then the first ever Welsh secondary school in Cardiff and its county, which was called South Glamorgan. So I was in the first intake of an existing school, and we took over like one corridor and 4 classrooms, and the teachers came to us. So we were taught, it's called immersive education. So they just throw you in, and if you're from a non-Welsh speaking family, as I am from, you're at a slight disadvantage. But because I've had primary school and nursery school, I'm immersed in the language. So you're not totally out on a limb, but you don't have the benefit of coming from a home where Welsh was the first language, or maybe one of your parents spoke Welsh and they could help you with, work in Welsh and writing and reading in Welsh. So only a slight disadvantage, but you are immersed in it. So there wasn't any choice. We had English as a subject as much as we had French and German, but they expected you to speak Welsh even at playtime. Now those schools have grown, but there are some schools where I think it is compulsory, but I'm a little bit confused as to whether it's primary schools or secondary schools. I'm not totally clued up on that. So I didn't have a choice, in that respect. So I was just immersed. You're in at the deep end and swim to the shore,
I've got to say, when we worked at sea together, Mrs. G said, I just absolutely love the Welsh language. And we were working with great Welsh entertainers, Lloyd Davis and Bruce Anderson. And
Jackie Spencer, all those, quite a few.
But I've been listening to you go, right, I'm not being funny, but I'm just going to speak to my mate in Welsh. And all I could hear was, Balmoral, Black Watch. I was, how do you do that? Listen, I want to show a little clip of you actually singing in Welsh. Is that all right, Tony?
Yeah, fire away. Fire.
I'm sorry about that.
I bring my own paparazzi with me. Notice the bloke behind there, unbelievable. And it was a bloke.
Mr. Lloyd, any chance you could turn around, Mr. Lloyd? Okay, and smile.
No, he was related to the. Was that who's the Welsh guy that was on Dad's Army that you do so well? He was the photographer in Warminton on Sea.
All
What was
right,
his name?
Mr. Mannering.
With the teeth. Yeah, no, he wasn't related.
His name was. I could be wrong. There's an awful big chance that Tony, I could be wrong because he was only in the regiment for a short amount of time, and then
then he went.
Stupid boy.
I know, he had his marching orders.
Tony, tell me about that clip because it looked very, very cold. You're dressed in black, and
my hair was black pepper, and now it's salt and pepper.
Yeah, you look very distinguished, may I say. I'm going to just throw up your picture here, which I think you look very distinguished. And if anybody's tuning in and they want to comment, if you like Tony with dark hair, or if you like Tony with his salt and pepper, send me a comment and let me know, and I'll put it up on the screen. But tell me about the what was happening? I
was asked to be a part of the Titanic 100th memorial cruise, and that was on a Fred Olsen liner, the Balmoral, and that was 2012, obviously 100 years after that tragic event with Titanic, and a wonderful experience, very poignant. There is some footage on YouTube of the actual ceremony that was around about 2:20 or 2:40, I forget what time, which marked, it was gone. It actually kicked off around about 11:20 or 40. I get confused with the 20 past and 40 minutes past. So I was there with a host of other guest entertainers, and I remember one of those. His name was Colin Fingers Henry, a piano comedian, great actor, worked with him many times. And he said something quite profound. He said, "I wonder if other acts are wondering what acts are on board our cruise," and it was a brave thing to put him on, but it was very kind of visual and oral with the piano. And I just wonder whether the 30 plus nationalities would get the gags, but they did. It was a great. They got it, and so I asked this Hugh Mosford. He was a Welsh minister, and he's linked with the is it the Mission to Seafarers? He's like their, if that's the right title. He was there then, maybe still is, their overall kind of chaplain. And I said, I'm booked to do my shows. Is there any chance I can perform at the memorial service? I did both. There was indoors, and they used the main dining room and the main Neptune Theatre, and also on the aft deck, and that was pretty crammed. And that video you can see, but I'm not singing anything in Welsh. Of course, that, just in case people didn't know, that is a famous Welsh hymn. I mentioned earlier on, Welsh people being, going to chapels, and that is Cwm Rhondda is the name of the tune. Otherwise, we know it as Bread of Heaven. So that was later on in the cruise, and we got to Halifax in Canada, and a lot of excursions to go to a couple of going to some of the cemeteries there. And I just thought, let's do an extra little open air concert, and it was a little bit more not jovial. It was kind of respectful, because that was the nature of the cruise. It was
You do these outdoor concerts. I've seen you literally. I've got some pictures here. This is, just talk me through when I throw these up.
That's me on a trampoline.
That's you.
Very unusual.
Just getting ready to do a triple.
I didn't go very far. I think that was last year, if I'm correct, on the Black Watch, and it was we didn't realize at the time that was going to be Fred Olsen's Black Watch's final farewell cruise. But this was March of last year, and coming in, we skipped. Well, as you can see, that is Lisbon. I forget the name of that bridge. I didn't. The viewers will know the names of these bridges and the river.
Yeah, if you're watching and you know the name of the bridge, send us a little comment.
Yeah, it looks like we're in San Francisco, and then we pass Rio, because they've got the statue of Christ the Redeemer there, and the river begins with a T. I can't remember the. So that's on the aft deck, and we couldn't get off because now COVID was kind of presenting itself, this pandemic, and so we just agreed to do sail away a little bit earlier because we could get away. Nobody could get off. I think they could take maybe some provisions. So unfortunately, we couldn't do the excursions and so on in Lisbon. And it's so well organized on Fred Olsen, and actually I felt sorry for one lady who, this is how well organized they are. They made announcements over the ship's tannoys. They put notes under the doors, and then you're relying on word of mouth, because the concert, the open air, what I call the proms on the poop deck, some of the lines I call it Anthony al fresco. It was shunted earlier, and I'd finished. And this lady came through one of the lounges and said, "Oh, where's this open air concert?" And I was looking like an ice cream seller in my white suit. And she said, "Oh, where's the concert?" And I felt so bad. But she was almost blaming me. And I thought, what else can you do? If you got your earphones on when there's a tannoy and you didn't see the slip of paper under your gate, under your door, rather, under your cabin, then what can you do? And I felt, I thought, I can't do a little private recital for you now. It's just one of those unfortunate things. But I enjoy doing those because I like the seascape behind me. Some memorable ones. I was on the Spirit of Adventure, a lovely little ship, part of adventure cruising, and that was the backdrop of Manaus, and it was kind of sunset, or the sun was setting, and the ship, I couldn't see any of this, it's all behind me. And the ship kind of moved, and then I kind of saw it as the ship maneuvered, and I could see this wonderful backdrop. Sometimes you get an awful port where it's just all massive cranes, and then it's an industrial port, so you might wait until you go down an estuary or just out at sea, and I just love doing them. It just adds a different dynamic to the cruise experience, basically.
We've got a couple of people. Bruce, wonderful act, Bruce Thompson, one-man band. Hello, Bruce. And Fiona Deep, she's just said it's the River Tagus.
Oh, Tagus, Fiona. Hello, Fiona. She's out in Sri Lanka, I think, but she's flitting back and forth from Dubai.
So they win 10 points. They go to the next round.
Oh, right. So that was the river.
Tony, you're an international performer, so
that means I performed in England and in Scotland.
No, you're an international. How do you find working to American audiences and Australian audiences?
Oh, fine. Because I think it's difficult for you guys because you have to adapt, which you do so well.
I love the Australians, New Zealand crowd. I love Americans as well. You kind of have to. The point I'm getting to is it's the humor side of things, and if I put something humorous in, if it doesn't translate with the audience, then and I think you gave me because you never stop learning as a performer. You take good direction and advice, and I remember words you gave me was, "If in doubt, leave it out." So if you think again, sorry, it's a BBC adage.
Oh, is it right? Okay.
When I did Opportunity Knocks, they said to me, "When in doubt, leave it out." And
well, there we go. So even you learned that, and you pass it on. You pass on your knowledge, or sharing the love, as you say. I'm just going to top up my tea a minute. Yes, because
I'll go for another slurp.
Well, yeah. Oh, that's a very more milk, I think. So, I think you have to. I think that even within, let's say, British cruise lines, even one particular fleet of ships, an individual ship within that fleet can attract a different audience. It's very difficult, and that's half the battle, is knowing what works for the audience. So if they're American or Australian, New Zealand, I suppose I'm lucky with music that it's such a universal language. Even though I'm singing, most of my lyrics are in English, but I sing in French and in Italian, occasionally German, and sometimes in Welsh, as you heard then in Halifax. But they know the tunes, so it doesn't really matter. That you kind of, as a musician, as a singer or an instrumentalist, you're already on a winner because nobody's having to work out a gag. And that's why I say it's harder for you guys to.
But I just love it when we have a lot of time, us performers, lecturers, crafters. We have a lot of time on ship, and you can't help not observe people. I was on an American cruise ship, and there was this lovely American couple, and the ship had a British night. So this lady shouts over to her husband, "Hey, Walter, Well, find out what they got on the menu. Okay, I'll do this. Walter, what's taking you so long? They got a thing, British night tonight, you know, Mabel. Yeah, so what is it? It's a thing called British trifle. And another thing called a baked well tart. Well, if it's baked too much, I ain't going to eat it. And I just want to say, working to American audiences, they must absolutely love this, which is one of your shows.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, back in 2019, I was doing quite a few concerts to mark Howard Keel's centennial. And of course, if you don't know Howard Keel, where have you been all these years? You know, I'm not ancient, but I know of him. Maybe, okay, I'm involved in singing and music, and I'm a lower male voice. And of course, he was an MGM musical star. He even straight movies. And of course, then later in life, he went into Dallas. And it kind of gave him a new lease of life of doing concert tours. And he came they loved him in the UK. And I've been liaising with his widow, Judy Keel, who sent me some wonderful letters, very supportive. And I thought I'd mark, again, like the Titanic Memorial, the centennial, 2019, I was marking his centennial. So, as I say, I did a show in the West End live at ZL near Piccadilly Circus. And a wonderful gig down in Clacton Arts and Lits, which is a lovely venue there. I've sung there about 4 or 5 times. I must be doing something wrong. And yeah, I just thought, you know, and if you don't know about him, you're soon going to find out. And it was a mixture of all of the great musical theatre numbers that he did and the films he was in, Seven Brides and Seven Brothers and Kiss Me Kate, and there's a myriad. I'm trying to remember off the top of my head, but also the pop songs, you know, Hello, Lionel Richie, Beatles, the Beatles songs that Yesterday, all songs I'd never sung before. I've Never Been to Me, which was I remember that. I think it was Charlene in the early 80s had a hit with it, and then the Temptations did a version, which I like these titles. It was male formatted, so I had to change the lyrics somewhat. And he just did the same version as the Temptations, and he did it on the Bruce Forsyth show. So it was kind of soft rock ballads as well as the kind of gritty macho kind of songs, you know, Bless Your Beautiful Hide and all that kind of stuff that he would do in his concert and on the silver screen. And just kind of punctuated that within the show with a little bit of information about those movies, the fact that Judy Garland was really in the running as the lead in the title role in Annie Get Your Gun, but unfortunately not. They went to Betty Hutton because Judy Garland just didn't look right. She was kind of washed out, and it wasn't her fault. She was, it was medication to wake her up, medication to put her to sleep. It was the unfortunate side of the then Hollywood system.
Sure.
So I didn't want to make it too much of a lecture in the show. That's something I could develop because that's something we were discussing in the past. That because there's loads to talk about. We've only got, in the context of an evening show that's 45 minutes or so. You can't just be talking. I talk enough in my show anyway, but I still get through all the songs. But just as I say, punctuating just to give you the background story and. So it was a wonderful experience, and I keep that now because that's a relatively new addition to the other shows I do, which are a mixture of opera, kind of crossover, legit opera and crossover, might I say.
Fantastic variety.
Absolutely.
Shows. It really is. Talking about shows, here is you, right? And this was a really very, very special show for me and Mrs. G. Yeah. And you're here outside one of the most luxurious hotel chains of the world. Now, this was really quite. We look back on it and we think, how did that happen? So,
that was the coral reef. Oh, there we are. There she is. Yechida. We'll raise a glass. We'll raise a glass. All right, I'll go over that way. You can see me this side of the screen.
Yeah, I've got it over here. So
raise the glass.
Just
to Lindy Lou. Yeah. Well, it's this age-old thing of who you know, and I was on a particular cruise line. Oh, I'll mention it. It was with Saga Cruise Lines, and I did a couple of cruises with the late news anchor and journalist Peter Sissons, who passed away. Was it last year or the year before? It was fairly recently, and he was quite clever in one aspect, that he could do his talks on a ship. And I don't say this happened all the time. It wasn't. What's the word I'm looking for? It wasn't like a given, or it wasn't stipulated. But just imagine that you own a house out in Barbados, and you could do a series of talks to get to that house on a ship that's due in the Caribbean, and maybe you stay there for our winter, and then you negotiate doing a series of talks on a ship that's coming back. So what a nice way to travel. You're having a holiday before you get to your... I assume he did that a few times, or he just did one or t'other, and maybe flew home or flew to his house in Barbados. But he mentioned that it's no longer there. There was an opera festival, and then I think it was Cynthia O'Hara was the... I may have that name incorrect, but it rings a bell. And I got in touch with her and said, would you like me to do my show for your guests at the Coral Reef Club? And because Peter Sissons and his wife and friends would go there for traditional kind of British Sunday roasts out in Barbados. So, I happened to be on a vessel at the time, and it was a stopover overnight. And I thought, well, what the heck? So then I thought, I'd invite you as the compere. And
well, the comparing side of things, if I can't do a Barbadian accent because most people will take an offence, but it's an absolutely beautiful accent.
Yeah, slightly Welsh.
You gave them the introduction, and these two guys looked at it and they said, "Okay, well, the Rolls-Royce voice, which is what you're known as in the business," and then they came across this word, the Rolls-Royce voice of sumptuousness. And one looked at the other and say, "How do you pronounce this?" And the other guy said, "I don't know."
They were trying to say sumptuousness, weren't they?
Yeah. I said, "Listen, guys." He said, "If you want, I'll compare for Tony." Oh, that would be great. So they didn't have to say the word, and it was absolutely wonderful. So I compared you for the two halves of the show, and then afterwards, we sat down and we had this beautiful meal, and it was me and Corky.
Yeah, wine.
We were just.
A whole lot.
We'll literally dine out on that as we tell people about that story.
And the reason I kind of the added bonus, I suppose, because I forget which wedding anniversary you were celebrating at the time. Can you recall which one it was?
That would have been.
I won't put you on the spot and say what date is your wedding anniversary.
I'm just trying to think when it was, because time is just.
No, I know. It's about 4 years ago, 5 maybe.
Yeah.
Well, but that was an additional
36 years, so it would have been about a 30-second, anniversary. Yeah. The timing of it is absolutely wonderful.
Such a nice thing to do, because I like, I like marking things, as you see, with all these centennials and things.
And another thing that you like to do is this one. You talk about centennial.
Oh, yeah. Well, here's another great bass baritone who is probably more strictly classical compared to Howard Keel. And this is the late, great Sir Geraint Evans, who in 2022, had he still been with us, or if he was still with us, I suppose it's thinking in a similar way with Prince Philip, the Duke of Edinburgh, that he would, by next year, if he was still with us, he would reach his centennial. And I met him initially as a kid in a school program, in that school I mentioned that we started in 1978. And we did a thing at the Pont Canna Studios in Cardiff. It was the old HTV, Harlech Television. There was HTV Wales and West. And he'd done a little Christmas show, and my school choir had done this Christmas song, whatever, for his show. So we didn't get a chance to meet him, but he was in the studio. And then I was aware of him being, a major international opera star, and he was a trailblazer for other British singers, kind of in the post-war era. And so then I was competing in the Royal National Eisteddfod, which I mentioned earlier, and I met him adjudicating for a particular prize for a scholarship towards your studies. And on 2 occasions, I didn't get staged. I think he was more critical of the basses and bass baritones. He knew a lot of the repertoire that the sopranos and the mezzos and the tenors and the baritones would sing. But I think he had to be seen to be more critical because that was his voice as a bass baritone, or what the Germans call a Charakterbass. He was a character actor, but in the case of in operatic terms. And I remember meeting him. I used to put this in my show, and he was asking me who I was studying with, and he said, well, he sometimes sang out the side of his mouth, like, oh, a little bit, not quite symmetrical, occasionally. But and he said, who are you studying with, and where was I studying? Blah blah blah. And he said, well, look after the middle of the voice, and the top and the bottom will look after itself. And I would say in my show, and to this day, I haven't a clue what the hell he was talking about. So just as a jovial thing. But yeah, because there's a wealth of repertoire. I've done some of the roles that he would have done, and I'm just getting it out there for bookings in Wales or beyond, really, because he was international.
Is that going to happen, Tony?
So that's all through 2022.
Right. Can I just take you back to the opening clip which we had? And I'm going to ask anybody who's watching if they can send a comment and tell me if they recognize who Tony was playing opposite. So if you can send a comment through, fingers on your buzzers.
I'm not going to say.
No. But if anybody knows who that was, and nobody's coming through with that, they don't know who that is. Would you like to put them out of their misery?
No. Well, it's hard to recognize him because he has got I don't think he had sometimes in theater they put a bald pate on you. I've had it with roles I've done, so that they can then put a wig on top. So if your hairline was lower or higher, in my case, once they put a wig, excuse the hair, they so he had, I don't think he had a bald pate, but he had a wig on top to age him because he in that story of Scrooge. Hey, it's a bit early to be playing Christmas stuff, isn't it? You know, I was a ghost. Just for people to know, that was me as the Ghost of Christmas Present in the London Palladium production on its tour of Scrooge the musical. I did audition for Tiny Tim, but the crutch wasn't the crutch wasn't high enough for me.
You're a very naughty boy.
Very naughty boy. And this particular gentleman who was in the title role, we come to the finale and the curtain calls, and we're doing about turn. It was me, character playing Jacob Marley. That was what's his name? Who was Barry in Heidi High? Come away, Barry. You always do this. Come away.
Oh.
And his name was Barry in real life. Barry, or was it
Barry Howard?
Barry Howard.
Oh, yeah. Come away, dear. Barry, we have to call our managers, Barry. I know.
Away, Barry. Well, he played Jacob Marley, and we do about turn with this particular gentleman playing Scrooge, and then we go off, and then he rushed back on, and he used to shout out, like, kind of, you know, in his South London Cockney, he used to shout out, "Taxi for Walford!" Yeah, and then, so of course it was Shane Ritchie.
Shane Ritchie
was playing.
Thank you for putting everybody out their misery. Yeah. And you and me, we're going to be acting together, aren't we?
We are.
Now, our very first guest, or my very first guest on A Cup of Tea with Mr. G, was Rose Cook-Monk. And if you remember, Rose she's the founder of the Duncan Edwards Foundation and Museum. In fact, we did the Cup of Tea with Mr. G. The last one was from the museum. Yeah. And I talked about Rose's play. And of course, the play, all about the wonderful, very moving life of the great footballer Duncan Edwards. Was all put on hold. And I've asked Rose, what's the timetable for the play to be launched? And so this is going to take place early February. We're just waiting for the date to be finally confirmed, and that's going to be in Dudley, which is obviously Duncan Edwards' hometown, at the Brierley, I think Brierley Hill Civic Hall. Forgive me with my black country accent there. Don't judge me on that. But that's going to be beginning of February. And then in Manchester, at the Albert Hall in Manchester,
Yes.
on the 21st and the 22nd of February 2022, it's going to be performed at that wonderful venue. Tell people about the character that you're playing.
Right. Yeah, this was a kind of an additional character that was introduced by Rose. I won't overcomplicate the story, and it's because time's pressing. But I'm glad you're not doing the Dudley accent, because it is watching that interview with her.
I'm learning it.
I know, because people get quite offended because it sounds just like your token Birmingham accent. And hey, you know, I know myself how an accent in Cardiff is different to Barry or Newport or up in the valleys. You know, and we know, but to an outsider, we may not hear that, but locals will know. So luckily, so this role, this additional role, I suppose it's got a bit of kind of gravitas to it, and is kind of commenting on this story of Duncan Edwards, of course, the Busby Babes and the Manchester air disaster. And, you know, a lot of people know this story. I've been enlightened because I'm not really a big football fan, you know, but I think most people who are into their soccer or football, whatever you're going to call it, would know of this. These are kind of, they're indelible, you know. And so this character is not it's not an historical character, and he's called Time. And I think that is
casting for that, Tony, if you don't mind.
Yeah, you know, it's a great opportunity for me. I've done a little bit of acting, but most of it has been singing. And yes, there's the voiceover work, and you heard a bit of the acting bit there, although it had some underscore in that Scrooge, you know, so you had to kind of do it in a rhythm. But yeah, we had a couple of sessions even on lockdown a good while ago with Rose Cook-Monk, who's producing it, and I think she's directing and co-directing.
She wrote the play.
She wrote the play. The play what I wrote. You know,
it really is. It really is.
Yes,
an emotional roller coaster. And,
unbelievable! The work she's doing on that. It's a great passion of hers, and it's going to be wonderful. Yeah. So I'm quite proud to be a part of that, even though it's just on hold, as most things are today. We're all in the same boat, pardon the pun.
It's going to go ahead, as I say, February. Just waiting for that to be confirmed. Manchester, definitely 21st, 22nd of February. That's going to be, and I'll be with you because I'm playing the part of the BBC commentator. So
I say,
I'm going to be hello. Yes, indeed. Getting my voice together. I'm saying, Chumley Warner. Hello.
Chumley Warner. I was going to say that with this role, it's a bit like it's not I'm not narrating anything. The story speaks for itself, and oddly enough, compared to another disaster that earlier on we're talking about, Titanic Memorial Cruise, it's just so funny as human beings that we can know the plot of something, be it a work of fiction, or as in this case with Keeping the Dream Alive with the Duncan Edwards or Titanic. These are factual things that are stories that you relay and tell. That as an audience, that's the, I suppose, the suspension of disbelief with anything theatrical, be it an opera, a play, a musical, is we know the ending, and the character of Time, of course, is kind of ifs, buts, and maybes that you don't know. We don't have a crystal ball. Although what has happened, we can see those characters heading towards something. But if you believe in those characters and they're played with truth, that you follow that journey because you're with them in not knowing as a character. They don't know what's going to happen. Yeah, they don't know.
It's a very powerful emotion.
Oh, absolutely.
And I look forward to treading the boards with you on that, Tony.
It'll be great.
But I will obviously post on the social media updates as to Rose Cook-Monk's play. And everybody will be able to see exactly the dates, Keeping the Dream Alive, all about the wonderful Duncan Edwards. So I'm going to take you out of the feed now. And
it's been wonderful. Let's do another half an hour. I got bags of tea.
Cigar under the star when we get to work again at sea.
Oh, cigars under the stars. Yes, don't tell everybody.
No,
it's our weakness when we just want to chill out and invite all the guests and cigars under the stars, and it's wonderful, especially if you're in a warmer climate. It's just a lovely way to spend an evening on a cruise line.
What you do is you have, even if people don't, I'm not endorsing anything, but some people just come up for the ambience because you set all the tables. It's white dinner jackets. It's sticky.
It's proper.
And we have jazz. You have jazz playing, and you have a little bar that's all set up. And people just think this is absolutely fabulous. And the ocean at night time, and you see the beautiful views.
Absolutely.
And stuff. We miss it so much. Before I take you off the feed, I've got to say a couple of things there. One of our viewers likes you with the salt and pepper hair. Your mum likes you with the ponytail.
She got a thing about horses, I'm sure. I don't know.
Somebody has said you haven't changed and you still look young.
Oh, bless whoever that was. It just says Facebook user.
Is that your mum again?
They're remaining anonymous.
It's got to be aimed at you, that one. And
no, both of us.
Tony, we'll keep in contact. I know we always ring each other and matter, but thanks for coming on the show. I'm going to take you out the feed now. I just want to update people about what's happening in regards to this wonderful prize that we've got, and we're trying to raise money for charity on that. So
it's competition time.
I'll raise my cup to you, Tony. If it was night, that's a bit dirty. If it was night time, I said, right, I'm going to Gwelly.
You're going to Gwelly now. You're going to be bad in bed under the doctor. There we go.
There we are. Tony, God bless you. I wish you all the very best for the future. Before we actually take Tony off the air, the most important thing, now here, the little ticker tape. We've got the ticker tape here, and if we... Oh, that's... You're good at that.
Is it going that way or that way? Because it's all in reverse, isn't it?
I'm rubbish at this. But here we go. Now, if you want to... If you're anybody who'd like to book Tony, whether it be land, sea, whatever.
Even the WI. There's another centennial we forgot about.
You did the WI at Margate, I believe.
I did. For the East Kent Federation.
Stuart Lloyd at hotmail.co.uk.
That's the one.
So we'll say that again. Some people got that. Anthony
Stuart Lloyd at hotmail.co.uk.
There we are. Okay. Yeah. Now, if people are watching this and think, "Oh, I've just missed it," because Harry from the Black Country. Hello, Harry. Lovely to see you. Only saw the last 15 minutes. He thinks.
Hello, Harry Taylor. Hello there.
He thinks you're a nice bloke.
Oh, that's nice of you to say, Harry.
Harry, don't worry, because what I always do is I take the whole thing and I put it as an MP4 and I put it up on a cup of tea with Mr. G.
And this will be on YouTube as well, I think.
Yeah, it'll be. Well, if you go to the Cup of Tea, Mr. G, YouTube, you'll find it on there as well. You'll find it on my normal site. You'll find it on a Cup of Tea, Mr. G, and you'll find it on YouTube. So if you missed it, don't worry. We've got it all covered. But Tony, I wish you all the very best for the future, and I'll speak to you soon.
You take care. And thanks to all the viewers and listeners.
God bless you.
Take care.
Thank you. Well, that was my mate, Anthony Stuart Lloyd, an absolutely brilliant act. Now, I'm going to sign off, but I just want to give you an update as to what's happening with regards to our fundraising efforts. Thank you ever so much, as I said before, to all the people that supported the charity auction and also the Manchester United VIP tour. We have some very, very dear friends at Gian Holidays, which I have mentioned, and apologies in advance if you think he's not mentioning that again. But really, I have to mention this because everybody needs something to really look forward to. And can you imagine, for just £10 an entry, you could win a fabulous weekend break for 2 people, adults over 40 years of age, to Warner's Bembridge Coast Hotel. It's absolutely brilliant. I've worked there many, many times on the Isle of Wight. This prize includes the return car ferry crossing, standard room in the main hotel for 3 nights, 3 dinners, 3 breakfasts, free drinks. Yes, free drinks from 6 o'clock till midnight, a full program of entertainment. And you've got a choice of dates there. You've got the 26th of November, and there's also one in January. Now, there's too much information to put on there at the moment. All the money, now I say all the money, 100% of the ticket sales is going to go to the two charities. My charity for Corky, which is the Love You Hospital, that's the Chichester West St. Richard's Hospital. The Love You Hospital is going to go direct to the ward of the doctors and nurses on the Pagan ward. 50% is going to then go to the Duncan Edwards Foundation to carry on the great work that Rose does up in the Black Country. It's two very, very fabulous charities. If you want to know more information how to buy a ticket, simply go to my Facebook page, which is Cup of Tea Mr. G. You'll find all the details on there. And because we don't want to advertise account details on the page, we'll ask you just to Facebook either myself or Rose, and then we will actually send the bank details for the charity for you to say, I'd like 2 tickets, please. And we'll give you the bank details. You just pay in £10 a ticket, holiday for 2. Look at GN Holiday site. And I've got the website here, GN Holiday site, gnholidays.com. Look at the lineup of entertainment. I'm not going to mention it now because I mentioned it before. The easiest way is just go to their brochure. And if you've never been on a GN holiday before, contact them, get a brochure, because they do so many wonderful breaks. They also do cruising as well, river cruising. They've got soul breaks, they've got 60s breaks. There's so much. You'll be reading the brochure for an hour. So contact GN Holidays. Here's their number, 01895 833333, or visit their website, gnholidays.com. So thank you so much for joining myself and Anthony Stuart Lloyd today. It's been fascinating learning about the Welsh language and how that all came about. And hopefully, you know, we will all see you either at sea entertaining, which is what we just love to do, or on land. So from me, Christopher G, you know what's going to happen now. I'm going to get the boys in the band, and they're going to play us out. Until next time, I don't know when it's going to be, but as I say, I'm going to do not as many podcasts and all in a week. Because I've been doing 3, so I'm just going to do perhaps 1 a week, and I'll let you know in advance who my guest is. So have a great time until we meet again. From me, Christopher G, very goodbye.
And everything's up for tea.